Welcome everybody at this webinar of the March release that we just released last Monday. First off, we have a couple of new features, of course, that I will show. And I also put in a link in the YouTube chat. I think it's there. So you can vote on that. So we can look at what's the most favorite feature and talk about that more than the other ones. So let me introduce the features first, and then I will do a little general talk about this release. So already have the poll results, but we have the source snapshot logging. So that's on the provisioning side. We can see the logging. We have the grid view option to export to a CSV. So that's on the form side of service automation. So you can have a grid, and the grid, what you see there, you can export to a CSV. We have the integrate all-in-one delegated forms, and this works with our GitHub repository, so you can import new delegated forms easily with a little tweak, and it will insert everything from data sources, forms, tasks, and all that. We have the remember target URL after login. So that's more convenient for end users, how that works. We have the update account reference on update action. I will explain it later, but it's a little bit difficult to explain. And the trigger on the account updates based on the conditions of a rule. So based on the first voting, we will start with the source snapshot logging. So I see a lot of people are still voting. Please keep voting, and I will look at this after I explain the feature. But also good to mention is that we had some issues with the service automation, the new agent service, but we fixed that during this release. It took longer than we hoped, but now it's fixed and it should be fully operational. So now there should be no downtime for the new PowerShell data sources. So I think that's good to know and to tell you. So let's start with the source snapshot logging. Oh, and before I forget, if you want to have all the details of this release, go to the roadmap, go to the launch page. You will see the release of March 2021, and you can go to the notes. And this will contain all the changes, fixes that we have in more detail, and also some new integrations we released this month. Okay, let's start with the demo. So we're going to provisioning for the source snapshot logging, and as you can see here, we have made a little change in the user interface. So normally you had the source systems on the left side, and on the middle side you had the snapshots with the imports in there. We changed it to a different page. I'm going to show you that in a moment. So that's the snapshots page, and it's a submenu of the source. But now you will have more information on the system, and we can put more information on the system tiles that you have here. But basically it works the same. The other change we made is that this was only updated once in the 10 seconds. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I had to go to this screen, so you should see my screen right now. I will start again. So for HelloID, I'm going to provisioning and go to source and then systems. So as you can see here, the UI is changed. Normally you have the tiles of the system on the left side, and in the middle you had the snapshots with the imports in the middle, and you can see a little bit of history in there. It was a bit clunky, but now it's nicer to have more room, and we can put more information inside the tiles. The other difference that we made is also normally the tiles are updated every 10 seconds, but now it's updated directly. So it's a different technique we use. to show if something fails or something is published or something is busy. You'll see it directly and it will change directly without needing to refresh or to wait 10 seconds or 5 seconds or something like that. Also a little change is that we round the blocked items. Normally it was a real long number in some cases, but now it's rounded. So we can go to the snapshots page. So here you see all the source system and you can start a new import just as normally. Oh, and also we moved the display name, primary contract, primary manager and custom field configuration from the button to the right side of the UI. So that's all the same, but they're in different places. For the snapshots, we have a new screen. So here you can see that I've created snapshots with import systems. As you can see here, I have a snapshot of yesterday at night, and I imported the HR system and the workflow. So those are the systems on the system tile. And especially more important is I can see logging currently. So if I go to the logging, we will load up the logging available from something that we call a stack driver. And that is all the logging you put in your script or that we see during creation of the snapshot. So also if you have a PowerShell source connector and you do something like a write warning or write error or a write verbose, you will see the message here. So you don't have to go to another system to check the messages, you can just check it here. Please be aware that it could take a minute before the logging appears here, because the logging has to be registered and then we can search in it and show it here. Another nice feature is that we can see if a snapshot is created manually or automatically. I don't think we have an automatically icon here, but manually means a hand sign, and for automatically we have a different icon, so you can see the difference in there. I also see that we have a question, so let's go to that question. No, snapshot has nothing to do with service automation. So snapshot is just a new term. It was already in provisioning, but snapshot means is a particular state of the vault. So you do an import of multiple systems and then you will get a snapshot of the current situation inside the vault. Hope it's clear. Else please ask again in the questions and I can explain it a bit more. So what we have here is the snapshot. So it contains multiple imports of a system, but it could also have one import, of course, if there's just one system. The other nice thing is you can see here the amount of people that are imported, or the number of persons inside the snapshot. So you can see here it's growing. So that's normally the case at customers, or here it will grow this number. A different one that you need to understand is that a snapshot creation will not always will not do an import for all the systems. So as you can see here, we create a new snapshot. So it's on the 1st of April. And you see the HR system is triggered also on the 1st of April, but we're using an import of the workflow system on the 10th of March. So there's a real big difference in there. So in previous you could look it up, but it was a little bit difficult, but now you can just see it clear and see which import you are using. And also if there is a blocked version of an import, you will see it here. So there will be a warning icon, so you know that the import is blocked. But we create a snapshot because the import is blocked, but we'll use the import version before that, because that's already used in the system, of course, if there is one available. I'm getting some other questions. will Snapshot become available for service automation? No, but I think the whole relevance of a snapshot is differently than you ask of me here, I think. So maybe we can contact outside this session and I can explain how this works to you. Maybe that's easier to do than explain it here. But a snapshot has nothing to do with a backup in this case. So it's just a release of all the data that's imported. So let's go back. It's really important to know that that you can check the logging. I think that's a nice thing of this feature. You can check the logging, you can see what's going wrong. So here I have a warning. I have some unresolved managers that I cannot find in my persons, and I can fix that or do whatever. Maybe I say, okay, this is okay, I just run it like this. So that's it for the source snapshot logging. So I'm going to look at the second. Okay, so the second one is the trigger account updates on condition. That's also a very difficult one to show, but hopefully I can explain it to you guys. And we just recently launched the dynamic permissions in previous release. And actually what we did here is if your contract is changed or your contract has different conditions where it is going inside the business rule, it will send those conditions to the system so you can use it to grant a specific dynamic permissions. And actually you can do the same with an account, and I will show how you can use it and why. Is in case of there's nothing changed in the HR, but you have something like a field inside a target system, so let's say Active Directory, where I will sum up all the departments that I'm working on based on the business rules, business rule where my account entitlement is on. So if I have a business rule here, and I have, let's say, the default rule for everybody, I can see here my account on on-premise Active Directory. So in this case, the condition is active. So that doesn't mean that I have to send all the departments, because I only want the departments that are inside the active condition. So the timeline should be between the start and the end date. In this case, you will get a setting inside the account which contracts are inside this condition, and you can write it to a field in Active Directory. So in this case, you can use the department field and write all the departments that are that my contract are active on instead of just one. This could help in some situations for a certain case that you want to see all the departments that a account is granted on. But if you change the contract rules, you also want to have a update trigger, because you want to change the department names inside the field. And now you will have this, because if you're changing the condition, or the condition is changed because of a timeline, because a contract could go inactive instead of active, you need to have to update the field on the department field of the AD account, and just leave that department alone. So it's really difficult to see, but it means that we can do some other things, like sending all the departments that are connected to the business rules or in the condition of the business rule to a target system. But the same, of course, is the titles or functions or cost centers, everything you can imagine, but what we can put inside the person vault. Third feature, let's go for the grid view option, and then we go to the integrate all-in-one delegated form. Those are both service automation functionalities. So let's go to a service desk form. I think it's the most easy one. So the first one is the export of the CSV. Works quite nice and simple. So if we go to the AD group manager groups form as example, and we can search for a group, let's say for the Adobe groups, we will find 3 groups. And if we press the button here, so this one is new, the export as CSV, I will get a CSV file. And with this, I will have all those records that you can see. So it is really important to know that it's only what you see here, because if you change the search, so if I open this, it will contain 3 records. I will cancel it. But if I do something like this and search for A and export it, it will contain all the records that you see here, or that you can scroll to. Of course, in our application it's page, but it will contain all the data that you can see here. So it depends also on your search filter. So it will filter the results of that. So you can use this in case of you want to have a CSV of all the groups that have an A in them, or have a searchable list and you want to export it, so you can search in Active Directory or something like that and just export it, or just create a little report with the grid and you can export it. So there are multiple uses that you can use this. I hope everything is clear on this. If you have any questions, please ask them. But I will come back to the backup of your environment, but we will do that one-on-one. The other one is the all integrated integration with the GitHub. And I don't think a lot of customers know this, but we have a GitHub environment for Tools Forever where we have multiple provisioning connectors, but also some delegated forms. They're in there, just public, so you can look at it, search on GitHub on Tools Forever BV and you will find it. But with this new feature, you don't have to really look at it. So let's go to the admin. And if you go to the delegation and go to delegated forms, you will have a new button here, import external template. And if you press this, you can search for scripts that are already available in our GitHub environment. So there are loads of script already available, a lot of for Active Directory, but also for other systems, and of course everything is growing. Also our partners are helping, and all the offices are helping. So we will have a lot of new forms each month as a release. So what you can do with this is, let's search for create user. So I want to create a user in Active Directory. So this means I'm going to import a form that creates a user in Active Directory, so a standard template. And if I want to do this, I'm going to press import. You will get a script here. This is a script that runs and which creates everything. So not only the form, but also the delegated form, the connected data sources, the task to create the user in Active Directory. Everything as a bundle. We do this with a script because it's not always sure that it works in your environment. So you need to make some changes, and with this you can make some changes in the script, or just import it and make some changes in HelloID to get it working for your environment, for your specific needs. So you can of course make changes in it. So with this it's easier to import it and just have an example how it works, and then you just only have to change some things, some little things, and we also included a README in there. So this is also available on GitHub, but you can see here the README, and in this particular form you only have to set a particular global variable. AD user suffix is your domain. This is an easy one, but at the other ones, you could have more variables you need to set in HelloID to get it working. The other thing you need is, of course, we need it uses the API to create things. So inside HelloID, I just have to put in the portal base URL. In the future, we don't need this because we're going to inject it inside the script. But for now, it's still the case. And also, we need to put in an API key and an API secret. But this will also be replaced by an API key and an API secret that will be injected inside the script. Just to be sure, you will see these API key and secrets inside the video, but I will remove them after I'm done with this webinar, so you cannot use them, so there's no security issues. I only want to assign it to users in this case, and I already have this form available, so I want to create a duplicate. Normally you just leave it on false and it will say an error because it won't create a duplicate because it's already there, but in this case I know that I already have one and I want to create a duplicate. So now I just changed 3 things, I think 4 things in the script, and I can press execute. Oh, sorry, my mistake. I am running on the older version of on my server, so I need to put in this line because else the TLS 1.2 isn't supported. Normally, if your server is 2016 or above, this is enabled by default, and I think if you have all these security fixes on Windows, you also have this by default. But for now, I will add the line. And it's also good to know that if I make a mistake, I can go back and edit the script. If the execution is correct, then you will see all the logging files and you say, okay, the script is actually executed successfully. So in this case, I can see what it has done. So it created a variable for me, it created a data source, 2 data sources, a form, an access group, and also a category for the delegated form too, and of course the delegated form itself. So it does a multitude of things for me automatically. So if I'm going now to finish, I will have the ID account create underscore TMP because I had a TMP suffix, and it should appear now on my service desk because I created the user. So here it is, ID account create TMP. And here it is, and I have a fully functional form which I can use. And of course, if you want to make changes, just go to the forms component inside the admin. So you just can go to self-service forms, and let's create account. So let's search it here. Oh, maybe I made a mistake, TMP. So, and I can make some changes here. So maybe I don't want to have the department field, I just remove the department field. But in this case, you have some examples, and if they are good for you, then it's nice, everything works out of the box. But else you make some changes and it works as nice. So this will help you to get where you want faster because we have some examples. It could be that in some cases the script isn't working for you. Then contact the support or anybody else that can help you with that. We don't guarantee that everything works out of the box with these scripts because they're maintained by the community, it's open. So hopefully everything works, but in some cases it could be that there is an error inside the script, and that's the reason why it didn't function. But please let us know and we will change it, and it will be correct on the next person that wants to import it. Okay, any questions about this? I don't see any new questions. So let's go again back to the features. We have a little bit of time, so let me show the remember target URL after login, because I think that's also really important, because it's a small change, but a really big influence on things. I think I'm going to skip the update account reference on update account. The remember target URL. As you can see here, let's go to the self-service products. As you can see here, we have an URL with the enjoy.hellod.com/app/self-service. And in the previous version, it was like this. It was a hashtag. And let me show you the difference in behavior if I'm using the hashtag in the old situation and the new with the app. So let me copy this URL and let me sign off. Then I'm putting this. So remember, this is something like an URL inside an email you can press on. So the browser will receive this URL. I will go to admin, put in my data and log in. Oh. So now I'm redirected to the application page, which is a little bit strange, right? Because I expected to go to the self-service desk page because that was the URL. If I do this again, but I'm already logged in, so let me change again to the hashtag, and I do this again, but I'm still logged in, different tab. I'm going to the correct page. So this has something to do with we cannot use this hashtag inside the remembering of the login. So with this new functionality, if I'm copying this URL and I'm going to log off, put it inside my browser, just like an email that I can press a link on, go to there, go to my login, I will be redirected correctly. So this means that if you send an URL inside an email or send an URL to a Teams message or a chat message or anything you can think of, you will be redirected correctly even if you're logged on. So that's the most important step. Why I'm focusing a little bit on this is because some URLs that you guys have are still with the hashtag and they are still working because we have the backwards compatibility. Because if I press here hashtag, it will direct me to the app page, but it will not work with the login. So if you have any URLs that you're sending in an email that are hard coded, you have to change it to change the app, the hashtag to the app. So then it will be redirected correctly. So that's an important thing to know, that you need to change if you want to have this support. It's also available, of course, for the iframe. So that's also good to know. I think it's time. So if you have any questions yet, let me go to the questions page. I don't see any other questions, but I will contact you for explanation of the simple backup of our environment. It's a little bit outside of the release scope. There are no other questions. Okay, then I would like to thank you guys. Don't forget to subscribe on there, because then you will get notified when there is a new webinar and there are new features available, like the release videos of the different domains that we make each release. So you will be notified. I think it's 1 week or between 1 week and 2 weeks before we release the software. We will have the videos in YouTube. Okay, so thank you and have a nice evening.